I'm going to go into a certain topic because it comes up a lot when I tell people that I don't eat animal products. And they're like, oh, you're one of those vegans. There's a big difference between someone who actually understands what it means to be compassionate and show care and love towards all sentient beings. You can't say you show love, true love and compassion towards all sentient beings, and then consume products that use their body parts or their bodies themselves or their fluids, because you take that in. Now, people don't want to understand that they never had a choice, because when they're like, oh, it's my choice to eat what I want, you don't want it. You've been addicted to it, because instead of mother's milk, most people have grown up drinking a cow's milk or maybe a goat's milk. And if that's the case, depending on where you're from, your body now attaches its DNA to what it takes in, because you aren't your body, your spirit or your soul or your metaphysical nature, let's just say, if you don't like those words, has a vehicle that it's operating through. And those cellular components that are made up from what it takes in through thought and through eating, then those things become you. So if you keep taking in the energy of an animal whose whole existence for a long time is the memory of being farmed, enslaved, and herded, and you take that in your whole life since the time you're a little baby on formulas and drinking milk from a cow, from a mommy cow, which we stop breastfeeding at most people really young, some people 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 at most. We stop breastfeeding at that age for a reason. Every animal in nature stops breastfeeding after its first year, just about. Almost every other animal. And we call ourselves an animal, and we're the king of the animals because we can eat them all, and we're pieces of them all, right? If you really thought about it, we as the individual we are with this amazing vehicle of a body and this amazing vehicle of consciousness that is not necessarily more conscious, but more able to take that information and use it in a constructive way or a destructive way. And we've been doing a lot of destruction because we're taking in those animal DNAs and we're acting them out. And just like you take a little tiny mineral and you put it in a chip of a phone and you can see all these cool things. You can put it on a big screen TV and see all these crazy things coming off this little mineral. Your body is made of so many minerals, and this screen that projects outward and takes inward is exactly that. You are interpreting all that mineral memory. And since that mineral memory also holds memory of other beings who had their own mineral memory from the memories and the feelings and the emotions that they've had, they are now in you. And most of them were fear, like adrenaline rushing through their bodies. Whether it's a wild animal out in the wild, it still has adrenaline in its body and it has the memory of an animal that lived in the wild. You take that in, whether you get it or not. But then you also take that in, and since you've been watching TV and thinking all this stuff, you just think it's normal. Because a lot of people that are doing this have no idea how duped they themselves are. Let's say there's somebody who spouts out about a carnivore diet, or someone who says milk does a body good, or someone's like, come to Papa John's, we got 20 pounds of pepperoni. I mean them no wrong. I just wish for them to stop doing wrong. I mean nobody any harm. I just wish for them to stop harming others. That's all it takes to fix this whole world. Once we stop doing what we do to other sentient beings and taking that in and accepting it, it's just nature. That's what nature's like. We don't live out in nature in that kind of way. We have the ability and the intelligence to know how to grow things, to provide for each other out of love and care. Instead, we've let greedy people feed us death, keep us herded, keep us chickens, because we're basically eating cows and chickens and pigs. We're slobs, we're herded, and we're chicken shits. I'm not, because I take in the mineral memory of living plants and things that feed my body and mind to a point where no one can tell me that, well, you gotta have meat in order to develop a brain. Because as soon as I took all that stuff out of my diet, my brain clicked into a place where it was like, oh my Lord, this is not the normal world anymore. actually, wait a minute. This is the normal world. And everybody taking in that garbage is unnormal. There is a new normal, and that is not eating death and not eating the parts of animals that you enslave, because you do take it in. Whether you are spiritual, religious, or don't believe in any of that stuff at all. If you think that you take this in and you build muscle, you're going to build muscle anyway through the actions of your body, through taking in calories. It has nothing to do with what it's made out of on a certain level. Of course, if it's just garbage, yeah. But if it's made out of a living being, you use the fruits of a plant that don't hold fear. They do feel, they do vibrate and send sensations to protect themselves when they're being overconsumed. But when you have a relationship with the food you grow and the food you prepare and the food you eat, you actually give it mineral memory to bring in. Just like people have heard about the water experiments, where you can speak to water and it holds vibrations of good and of bad, or of love and of hate. Everything is made up of water. The concept here that rises, Christ, why do you think he died at 33? Because that's where water starts to melt. And it doesn't mean that it's just Holy Spirit energy. And it doesn't mean that it's just water. It's everything that rises, not just evaporates, but it's everything in the 3D world that we can think of. That is the unseen concept that rises. It's the vapor. It's the vitality. It's the living essence. That's what Christ really is. And if you really start understanding this and apply it to the Bible, and I'm teaching you, you'll see exactly what everything in the Bible means. And once you start understanding just the way that numbers work and the letters work broken down, I can teach you how it actually goes through the 7 cycles of mineral, and then through the body, then through spirit. Like, those aren't in order, of course, but it's literally how things around you portray in the environment, how you feel it through your body, how it is spiritually, how it is in a mineral sense, and then it's like the past, present, and future ideas of those things. And the cycle of 7 is literally you in the center, down to your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. That's 3 down, you're in the center. You're the D, you're the 4th, you're the come forth into the light. But that same thing happens, and the reason that the 4 is in the center of the rainbow, the 7 colors, the cycle of 7, D is in the middle, because you go from great-grandparent, grandparent, parent, and you. Of course, you have all those different ones that go upward and all those different ones that will come seemingly downward in your downline as time seems to go on. But you're never going to have a period of time where the great-grandparent is alive at the same time as the great-grandchild. It doesn't work that way unless you live in like an indigenous tribe. And by that time, if you're having kids at like 10, 12, 15, and I know I've been there, I've done it, you don't have this mentality because you're just living with the earth. We're not making up all these stories and trying to overcomplicate things and be philosophers and scientists, which that's okay. We are all our own philosopher and our own scientist. So when I go into talking about how I don't eat meat, it's not because I'm just some militant person who caught it online. I had no interest in even learning anything about it until I asked God what he wanted me to do. And I experienced the lifetimes of billions of things. And when I say lifetimes, I'm not talking just people. I'm talking animals. I know for sure, for a fact, that we come back. There's no doubt. And if you actually listen and see how this fits everything in existence, you'll realize that I didn't learn this from a human being, and no other human being that you've ever heard of or that you can find or even comprehend knows this. And when you listen to it, you'll see that it actually applies to everything. So therefore, you have to understand that my message is for you. I am a savior of not only myself, but I can give that to other people so they can be the saviors of themselves. So I am a savior to the self, this self, not just myself. That brings me to the idea of everyone saying self-love. If you know what self-love is, that doesn't just go on, I love myself or what I do, what I like, what I eat, what I think. Yeah. That also includes how you're going to portray yourself, because that affects other people's reactions to your personal self. So therefore, your outer self and your inner self are one. Your thoughts about them based on how you take in life and how you start developing your feelings and emotions and how well you can actually handle pressure and take things on. I mean, yes, we all have times where we get angry or get emotional. Like what I'm trying to deal with on a personal level, which is so small to me as an individual, is sometimes in the way of what I'm trying to give humanity because I get frustrated that I've been trying for so long and I'm being held back by the powers that be and by people and their mentalities not being willing to understand that they don't know what they know. It was taught to them by other people who wanted them to think that. And now they do. That applies to religions. That applies to schooling. That applies to most things people are doing. We don't need this kind of economy. It's horrible. It's killing it. Economy. It's a magic word. And the people who run it don't know it. They are just evil without even knowing that, some of them. A lot of them know they are, for sure, and we know that. There is a very dark side, and then there's just the dark side. And the dark side is people who some know they are doing what they're doing and they don't care, but they don't know the level of how bad it is. And then there's some that are on that dark side that are just part of it because it's a good job, it's a good position, it's good money. You know, I want to take care of me and mine. And I don't blame them for that. I understand that. But once you are truly awake, not just say, yeah, everyone's woken up, we're the woke movement. When you're truly awake, not just because you know there's wrong being done to animals, the same people that the militant vegans that say there's something wrong with what we do to animals don't seem to understand that since they're saying this stuff about how we enslave animals and we treat them like the comparable to the Holocaust, what do you think governments are doing to them and all people through the means of money? Now these people are making money to promote their veganism. Whatever. You know, there's much worse things to be doing to be making money. But I'm just telling them that if they think that we enslave animals and look how horrible humans are, they have to understand that comes from being treated like those slaves. And the reason we're being treated like those slaves and those animals and those less than beings is because through our ancestry, we've taken in the energy of nature and we've mistreated nature for so long. Nature itself, which isn't a body, and you aren't your body, I'm not my body, we are just here in the body. There's a difference. That part of nature that is above and beyond most things people can comprehend is coming around in a cycle and giving back to us what we haven't been brave enough, courageous enough, or intelligent enough to figure out, that we've been doing wrong to nature. It will always get even with you. Karma isn't just like, what I've done, I get back to me. Of course, that's true in one way. And of course, over lifetimes, your individual spiritual piece, or your spiritual particle, whatever you want to consider it, does go through these loops until you understand it. And you do take on individual karma. But there's a worldly and a universal karma that, as a whole, what we put out, as a whole, we get back. And if we keep allowing people to hold us down and lie to us about what we should be eating when it comes to animals, it doesn't even matter if it's a little more healthy to eat this kind of animal protein than this kind of vegetable protein. The vegetable protein holds much less harm and memory of torment and pain and all that in it, obviously, than a fruit or vegetable, something that you grow out of compassion and out of love. It doesn't matter if you raise this thing out of compassion and love, because it's got mineral memory of an animal that lives and roams and thinks and acts like an animal and is still caged. It still holds that memory. Whether you treat it like a great pet or not, when it dies, it really loses its trust for you because it doesn't have, even if it dies instantly, animals have an afterlife moment. And the afterlife moment is also in a time body that is non-physical. So the afterlife body is not necessarily something that is any different than something you have right now, because you do take it with you. But there's something between this life and the next where you establish a new body line. And I'm not going to try to get into that because it's so hard to put in the words for people, but I know it. And I can see it in here and understand it in here. But to say it out loud in words to other people, there aren't words for it. I could try to go through ancient dialects and see what they say, but that's not being true to me. That's not being true to you. So, like, when it comes back to the vegan thing, I want to wrap this up because usually I get real frustrated because I try to say something and I fumble a word and I'm like, oh, people aren't going to listen to it. But when it comes to the vegan, it's not even the word vegan that matters. If you see what the word vegan means, it means V, the vital, expressed, generated or grouped, active notion. It means I'm not going to harm anything. Egan means to express generation or grouping, active notion or active nature. Let it be vital, expressed, generated, active nature or notion or nature. And literally V is BB, 22. You could say B began. Let it be the way it began. Let it alone. Base, expressed, generated, active notion. Let it be what it is. That's all vegan means. And it means that you are compassionate and you don't cause harm and suffering to others. So these people who think they're tough and big and bad because they are sissies and they eat cows and they're tough guys, that's not tough. That's the biggest sissy there is. And I'm sorry to say it, but at the same time, I'm not. It's just these guys are going to get triggered because as tough as they are, they're little children inside. They get offended because they don't want to be wrong. So they're going to be like, I may be wrong, but I can kick your ass. Well, that's a good thing because we need a world full of people who like to be wrong and kick ass instead of people who want to do the right thing and take it back and kick ass if they have to. Now, that's what we need. If you're one of those people, hey, let's get together and start talking because we need to take the evilness out of the world in order to restore peace the way it can be. And if you think that sounds dumb, then you're just dumb yourself because you're damning yourself unanimously. To and from, underlying, manifested, base. You're going to be base because you choose to be dumb. Quit damning yourself. That's what goddamn means. It means generated ongoing to and from. Stop this notion. That's what it means. Damn. N. Damn that. To and from the active manifested notion. Stop it. Or that's pretty damn good. I sure as hell will, damn it. It can be to and from. See? It does matter. Like our words are magic. No matter if you understand magic or not, you're always casting it. But if you learn it and you're using it to manifest, that's not what God truly wants you to do. That's being selfish. If you're doing it to help others, great. That's why I don't teach how to do magic. I do know magic. I've seen so many things happen and I know how to do it, but I will never teach that to anybody, no matter what, because I don't trust them with it and I can't. And if they're around me and I see them for long enough and feel their vibration long enough, I'll be able to know who I could teach it to. But I made a vow never to do that until we change the problems in the world first. We need to take care of the present and the current issues before we worry about expanding on anything. The hell with all this technology and trying to find new places and letting rich people keep feeding the system that they are running. The system they're running has nothing to do with the average everyday person who just wants to live a life, be left alone, and explore the world and be part of this. Now they've turned us all against each other by coming up with this side and this thing we disagree about and races and your sexual preferences. Those things don't matter on a deep down level unless you're selfish and you're self-centered. I'm highest self-centered and that includes you. So that's why I try to reach out to everybody and be like, oh, you don't want to eat that. You don't want to take that in because I do know. I'm not saying it because, and it's not easy to say this to strangers, I do know what I'm talking about. I do know that if you stop eating this and go through the suffering and the withdrawals that you may have, you will come out on the other side better, for sure. There's no doubt. The process isn't easy. Don't take that on me. I've gone through it too, billions of times. So it's time for you to actually have the courage to make that switch, to go through the steps that you need to truly be awake. Not just say you are. I'm awake because I know stuff's going on. You don't know anything yet. You don't know if you're still eating garbage, you're still doing that. I choose to toxify myself. You don't realize that when you stop toxifying yourself, you actually reach a higher consciousness level and can understand things you never could have from eating the garbage and from toxifying yourself on purpose because you wanted to. You got addicted to it. So I know that goes all over the place, but I love you guys, man. I'm just being honest. I don't want to script anything. I just want to turn this on and go because it's always from my heart and it's always true. It may not be said the way you want it to be said, but I love you guys and peace. God bless.